Hail Internet, it's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here today talking about Star Wars Ahsoka, Season 1, Episode 3, Time to Fly. Title obviously references the major space battle set piece of this episode.
Oh, sure.
But I think it certainly references Sabine's Padawan journey as well, like a young bird spreading its wings for the first time, trying to touch the Force. And of course, her name is Sabine Wren, Sabine Baby Bird. Anyway, it's so on the nose. We open with Sabine training with Hu Yang. We see he's got the General Grievous extra limb fighting style. Sabine doesn't do particularly well at the combat training, but then she does even worse at the Force-sensitive combat training with Ahsoka. Very reminiscent of Luke training with Obi-Wan.
Sure.
Although probably as a demonstration of the difference in their Force sensitivity, Luke very quickly learns how to block while blind, whereas Sabine is going to take some more training. We end with Ahsoka and Sabine landing and hiding in the forests of the planet Cetos, where the Stonehenge-like circle is located. Mm-hmm. Ray Stevenson's Balin is already on the planet. He tells his red shirt minions to go get mowed down, hunt them down, one of the two. From what we've seen in episodes 1 and 2, Balin does appear to have foresight, at least some foresight. And we've seen in the trailers that Balin is talking to Ahsoka at the Stonehenge Circle. So I think he already has an idea of how this is going to play out. Anyway, that's just a theory there. So that said, Paul.
Yes?
What'd you think of episode 3?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. Maybe 6.5.
Okay, so you're giving it basically the same score as episodes 1 and 2, sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I guess, slightly better, but just not enough to really make me really thrilled. I thought it was fine. It was, I mean, I certainly like the performances. I still want more, but, this is a simpler story, and so, I like the training bits.
Yeah.
Even though in the sort of battle, there were a lot of shots taken, and I guess ultimately their shields were going to really drop, but it did seem like they took a lot of damage, or at least, all those ships shooting at, it seemed like they hit them a lot, but it only had a little bit of, while, Ahsoka and Sabine and theirs, they're the shoot a couple of times, and boom! Boom!
Yes.
I don't know why that was, but,
Yeah. No, we do get that trope. We see that in a lot of kind of space sci-fi. The hero ship seems to be able to take a lot more hits than the enemies. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, Ahsoka's ship gets hit dozens of times, probably. First by enemy fighters, then by the turbo lasers, and finally we do get the obligatory shields at 10%.
Yeah.
But I mean, at that point, I'm like, hell, 10% shields means you can get hit like 15 more times. I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, let's keep going. Whereas, as you say, shoot the enemy fighter, it's like flash paper. I mean, the Imperials, as we saw in episodes 1 and 2, they control the shipyards. Just steal the New Republic's tech if it's that much better. I mean, the Expanse probably does the best job at like bringing real world physics into space travel and space combat. But yeah, you're right here. It's like, what? Wow, okay. The difference in tech between this, I think it's called a T6, their T6, and these enemy fighters is like, sure, but I'll stick in that ship, thank you. But yeah, I would say this was a better episode than 1 and 2, in my opinion, too. I would give it a 7.5, probably.
Okay.
Because I feel like they fixed the biggest problem from the first 2 episodes. The most efficient way possible. Just like bad dialogue scenes. Cut them. So yeah, we have basically a 30-minute episode, probably too short for what they were trying to do there, but it's like a 15-minute space fight. So it's half of the episode is this big space duel, and so I guess in a way, good on them. They identified their weakness and they eliminated it. They're like, all right, fine. You don't like us talking? We won't talk. I mean, in terms of progressing the plot, it didn't. I mean, because they were like at the end of episode 2, it was like we've got to get to Cetos, and then at the end of episode 3, they're like we're at Cetos. But that said, we did get, as you say, the training. We got a little bit more of the relationship between Ahsoka and Sabine, and then some fun action scenes. I mean, it is that master-apprentice relationship. Sabine is the young, easily frustrated student. Ahsoka is now taking on the role of a teacher. And that's a fairly common trope, but sure. It's a common trope for a reason. It works, and I think it does work in this situation. Their relationship is altering, and we're seeing them take on these roles. And I assume we're going to see Sabine eventually improve. This is if it was a montage, if it was a 5-minute montage, this is the beginning of that montage where you're like, oh, I'm terrible at everything. And then I assume at the end of episode 8. We'll see Sabine finally become some form of a... whether she becomes Force-sensitive, that's a good question. How Force-sensitive will she be? I tend to think she won't be that Force-sensitive, but she'll be able to, for instance, move a cup or whatever she's trying to do. Mm-hmm. Maybe there'll be some small use of the Force, like I'll use telekinesis to unlock a door or something. That'll be like, see, it came in handy. That's
I wonder. It's like one of the things it's kind of interesting in how poorly they've handled this sort of idea of the Force, because nobody tries to talk about midichlorians anymore.
They don't. And yet we got introduced to Jason Syndulla, which I mentioned that we probably would see. We did see him in episode 3. He's Hera's kid. And he's like, I want to be a Jedi. And he is the son of Kanan Jarrus, who's passed away. But one would think, because he's got a dad who is pretty powerful in the Force, he's probably got the midichlorians, so he's probably pretty Force sensitive. But they're not talking. You're right. They're kind of going, you train at it and you're fine.
Yeah, because I wonder if you were to somehow get some sort of midichlorian implant. If then you could just
it's so true.
Using your powers all over the place. I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world. They developed it where it's like somebody who isn't Force sensitive could become more Force sensitive, and you wouldn't want to take her all the way up to fighting Vader or whatever. But
right.
If she got a little more, I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world.
Agreed. And I suppose, in a way, maybe the midichlorians, without saying midichlorians, I suppose that in The Mandalorian, the reason that the Imperial remnants were kidnapping Baby Yoda was to try to take maybe his midichlorians and then inject them into a clone to give them Force powers. So maybe there's a way they're trying to say, like, hey, we can inject the Force without saying that. In this case, she's like, I'm taking on a Padawan who at this moment does not appear to be particularly Force sensitive, because I can train them, and so we'll see how the training goes. Fight definitely had a New Hope, episode 4 vibes, kind of like the training did, right? We had this homage to Luke and Han, sure. With the TIE fighters. Don't get cocky, kid.
Yeah. And, the little robot comedy bits were closer.
I do like that Huyang is basically like a brutal realist. I appreciate that he's just like, you actually have the least amount of Force sensitivity of anybody I've met. Your scores are terrible. He shows, like, when after she does her sword training, he shows where her marks were. I like the fact that you can see. I was like, actually, it's not very good at all. And he just doesn't sugarcoat it. I like that. I appreciate the robotic honesty of
that's what I should have said at the top when you asked me what I thought. I should have said, not bad, but not good.
But not good. We get the space whales, the Purrgil, in live action again. So we saw them in shadow form in The Mandalorian. Now we see them like up close and personal.
Yeah, so how do you feel about that? We got a lot more whales this episode.
Yeah, I mean, they were particularly goofy in the Rebels show. They looked a little less goofy, I suppose, in live action. And I suppose for our heroes, it's a reminder that if the Purrgil are still active, moving through hyperspace, it's possible that Ezra is still alive. I mean, he is still alive, but in their minds, they don't know for a fact. But they're like, oh, look, here's the thing, and they're still doing their thing, and maybe that means there's a chance for Ezra. So I feel like that's kind of what they also symbolized in that moment. I did feel a little sorry for Shin, so that's Balin's apprentice in this episode. I mean, she basically, her whole function in this was just have a stern, look stern while flying face.
Yes,
you know?
Yes.
I'm like, oh man, that is some tough acting. That's a tough acting gig. Sit here and look. I'm moving closer. Okay. I mean, at least Merrick, you know, he had his visor on, so he didn't have to do the facial expressions. Odd that he's wearing his visor even inside a spaceship. I'm like, does he have one of those Mandalorian style codes? We're told he's a former Inquisitor.
He's like the true fanboy. He asked for it for Christmas, and now he's just wearing it everywhere.
Right. It's like, actually, I can't see to fly, but, you know, it looks cool, so I'm fine. We got Mon Mothma, now the leader, of course, of the New Republic.
With a nice new haircut.
Yes. We see again that the New Republic is too stupid for their own good.
Yes.
You know, like, send a couple of ships to investigate a security threat. What are we, made of credits? That's cost fuel. It might cost lasers. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, and they got the tickler like, oh, were you in the war?
Oh, right.
Did you fight in the war? Well, I did fight in the war.
You were a wuss.
Yeah.
It's not like they're going to create some kind of giant planet-sized Death Star. Request denied.
It's like, no, they've been to that well. They'd never do that.
They would never do that. Never. Who would do that another time?
Yes, exactly.
Time?
A third? No. What are you talking about? Third time's not the charm.
That's ridiculous on its face. Oh, hell. I feel like probably what will happen here at if I had to guess in maybe episode 4 will be that Hera decides to go off on her own. You know, rules be damned. Yeah, and she goes in and shows up to help him out.
At the last minute, sure.
Yep. The physics of Ahsoka fighting on the wing of the ship is a bit suspect, frankly. But it's the Force. You know, it looked cool. Yes, it was like, this looks cool. Let's do it. Don't think about it too hard. You know, with the way with how effective she was, you'd almost feel like you just want to have Jedi hanging out on ships. I don't know.
Sure.
Like, stick a Jedi on the wing, and then when you're, I mean, they were theoretically stopped, but they're not. They were in orbit anyway. But yeah, just to say, like, if you had a Jedi going pew 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 on top of your ship all the time. So a question that's going to need to be, in my opinion, answered in some way, somewhere during this season, is who left the map, right? So
sure.
You know, it's this ancient temple. Seemed to be made way before Thrawn was taken away. So here's my theory.
Sure.
Here's my theory on the map.
All right.
I think so. We did see that Morgan, the witch night sister person, she said, like, I hear Thrawn's voice or something when she's in the Stonehenge. So she can somehow commune with Thrawn across the distance. I think she did commune with Thrawn, and she got an idea of where he is. And this map is merely a route back to this other galaxy that was made by the aliens who came here eons ago. So it's not a route to Thrawn. It's a route back to this particular galaxy. And coincidentally, she knows that's where Thrawn is, and so that's why she needed that map. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, if it was like some passageway that was set up by another civilization, then it would have a particular place they're trying to go to. So
right, it just because originally I was thinking
in terms of a map that you might make.
how did Thrawn know to make a map to a place that he didn't know he was going? Anyway, so like, he's a brilliant tactician. Like, okay. So that's what I think it is. It's they're disconnected. They just happen to be. Oh, the place where he is, that's the place where they drew a map. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're brilliant.
Because there's 8 episodes, so next week is halfway through. I feel like, what? How long do you think before they go through the portal and they're now in the space where Thrawn and Ezra are?
Yeah, it's a good question because it's since I don't have as much appreciation since I didn't watch the shows. Like I don't know, like the people that do know what's going on, if they're like, "Come on, let's get to it," or if they're like, really excited at all the slow going to get to Ezra and and all that. So it's hard for me to say because of that.
The fact that they didn't actually get very far in this episode suggests that they're slow rolling it a little bit. I guess there's two possibilities. They will certainly go to this other galaxy this season. So do they get there at the end? Is it like episode 8? Oh, we made it. And I think it's somewhat more likely that somewhere around so let's say episode 5. Maybe at the end of episode 5, they make this journey, and then 6, 7, and 8 are spent, at least in a good part, in this other place.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we'll just we'll see how that goes.
Because they haven't mentioned the casting for Ezra, have they?
There's been some rumors about casting, and I've seen a few things, and then they've been said that they are discounted, so I don't know.
I see. Okay.
I did see a rumor that apparently we were talking about Amos from The Expanse.
Yes.
Apparently, the rumor is that he is essentially Thrawn's bodyguard.
Okay.
That's the rumor. So we would see him on the other side of the galaxy, new galaxy.
All right.
Yeah, short episode.
Yeah.
It didn't really push the plot along, but I suppose the character development in this was showing the relationship between Ahsoka and Sabine as his master apprentice, and I think to that extent it was effective. So good on it for that. We'll be back talking about episode 4.
Yeah.
Thank you as always, Paul. I appreciate it, good sir.
No problem.
And we'll talk to everybody next time.
Bye.
Bye.